Long ago, there was a Sonic product that was forgotten by time. Something that we haven't really covered on this channel before, but deserves our attention. Something that, given its due diligence and time, could have ushered in a brand new era for this franchise that, unfortunately, will forever remain a mystery now. That product was Sonic Xtreme. The book. Oh, what? You thought I meant the canceled Saturn game? Well, no, did you read the title? Sonic Xtreme was a platform game being put together by Sega Technical Institute for the Sega Saturn, meant to be the first fully 3D game in the franchise to usher in the new console era and beat Mario 64. Even the early ads were pretty smug about its intention to do so, which, is definitely made a bit more awkward to view in retrospect, considering it never saw the light of day. It was developed from 1994, where it was conceived first as a Genesis sequel to Sonic & Knuckles, then as a 32X title, before being canceled in 1996, after an overwhelming amount of development hell which ensured the newly advertised holiday Sega Saturn release would not be releasing. There were a lot of factors involved in the game's cancellation, such as company politics, a visit by Sega of Japan executives which failed to successfully pitch the game very well, and a lead designer becoming severely ill, told that he only had 6 months to live because of how stressful the game's development had been for him. To be completely honest, I don't think the game personally looks like it would have been much good if it did come out. While the aesthetic certainly has its charms, and this game has developed somewhat of a cult following due majorly to its unreleased status, in combination with the sheer amount of documentation and testimony we have about its development, it looks extremely rough around the edges, no pun intended. The level design seems against the grain of what makes Sonic fun to me, and overall it just looks easy to lose control of and have a bad time with. Which means, although I was desperate to learn more about it as a child, it's probably safe to say that the franchise would have had a much harder time breaking into 3D if it had actually become a finished product. That still, of course, didn't stop Sega's marketing branch from making tons of tie-in merchandise for the game to come back in '96, and these tie-in products remain something of a strange relic in the modern day, considering that they exist to promote a game which never actually came to be. From ice cream wrappers to walkie-talkies, Sonic Xtreme was not a game that went without its fair share of big marketing pushes, and this kind of novelty drew me to talk about one of its more miscellaneous products, which might otherwise be lost to time: the Sonic Xtreme kids novel published by Troll. If you genuinely did come to this video expecting or wanting to learn about the game itself though, I'd highly recommend a video about it created by GoMotion, which is very in-depth and a lot of fun. Then you could come back here and pick back up where you left off, if you still want to know about this strange novelty of Hedgehog's past. You might be wondering why I'd even bother wanting to talk about such a strange niche product though. Well, you see, I actually have somewhat of a humorously personal history with this book, one that I almost didn't remember until seeing it mentioned passingly in Gomo's video on Xtreme itself. Lounge back, dear viewers. Let me tell you exactly how this unlikely companionship between girl and book came to be. You see, when I was in kindergarten, I used to be enrolled in an after-school program, which basically allowed kids to play around in various ways under supervision until school was let out. This was basically just to give our parents some extra time to pick us up if they couldn't arrive at school to do so right as it was letting out, and didn't want to put us on a bus home. Given that I was so small and shy, the reason for doing this was probably pretty obvious. That being said, we would often play during after school in the gymnasium, which itself had a small walk-in office that was primarily used by the coach. In said office was several bookshelves packed with throwaway kids' books that were basically overflow from the main school campus's library, or books that I suppose the library didn't feel like going to the trouble of actually entering into their system. In this black market gym library of sorts, we could go after school and stand in a line to pick out a book, write our name on the checkout list, and borrow it for maybe a day or two before returning it and crossing our name back off the list to show that we had returned what we checked out. One day, during one such trip to the office library, I spotted this book, a tie-in kids novel, in heavy quotations there, on the shelf and was instantly gripped. You see, I've discussed this on my channel before, but as a kid, I was superbly invested in and obsessed with the Sonic franchise, and I needed to get my hands on anything Sonic related that even so much as existed in my peripheral vision. Though this was several years past the time that Xtreme had even been cancelled, I had no real familiarity with what it was supposed to tie into, only that it was Sonic and I loved Sonic, so of course I checked it out. Excited to take this literary masterpiece home and crack it open for myself, I walked outside of the gym to the grassy area near the sidewalk, where we would usually wait to be picked up at around this time. Behind me exited another child, one who had been behind me in the library line. This is where things became slightly precarious. You see, apparently he was not too pleased with my choice of written word, and had announced as such loudly to me, even though I was unaware of his intentions before this point. Apparently, he had set his sights on checking out this Sonic book well before I did, and took my borrowing of it as a direct challenge to his honor and pride. Or, well, maybe not that, but he was definitely under the impression that I did this on purpose to spite him. Having never been in a confrontation before, I didn't argue that I had no knowledge of his prior intentions, but instead did what any annoying child worth their salt would do in this situation: said that I got there first. This, of course, did not jive well with him, as he bore down on me with his similarly tiny frame, and here's the funny part, actually pushed me to the ground to begin punching me in the face. I had never been in a fight before, to be clear, so I was kind of frozen up, horrified. I couldn't believe what was happening, and before I knew it, there were already adults prying us apart, so there was nothing left to say about it anyway. All I knew was that this book, this treasure of licensed video game heaven that I was so excited to get my hands on, had now become the incitement behind the first real-life physical attack I had ever experienced from another human being. Which is pretty funny in retrospect, but really upsetting at the time. I'm sure I went home and read the book after that fact, but to be honest, until now I couldn't have told you what it was even about or that it was even called Sonic Xtreme. Only upon seeing the cover again in that video I mentioned was I even reminded of said book's origin. And so what did I do? Well, of course, I had to see whether this threat of violence was an appropriate response to the quality of said literary work. I had to own my own copy. And so, despite the fact that its retail price was less than $4, I spent nearly $20 on a copy from eBay to make this video. I presume after this video's release, I'll learn that the boy from my childhood who assaulted me for its sake will have been the only other watcher on this listing and is now in the process of tracking me down, so sorry again, buddy. The book, no lie, was actually released in 1997, the year after Sonic Xtreme was meant to release and was cancelled. It was written by Michael Teitelbaum. Teitelbaum? Did I pronounce that right? With interior illustrations by Ron Zalm. Now, considering the fact that Xtreme was never released or finished, and most of the story concepts of the game were only known by designer Chris Sen prior to his release of information online in the years to follow, this book does not really resemble what Xtreme would have been like. In fact, almost none of the marketing material produced to advertise the game would reflect its nature in any significant way, because I guess Sega's marketing team gave their licensors almost nothing to work with. As a result, this book's plot is not based upon anything related to the plot of Xtreme itself, but rather seems to be almost a mix between some elements of the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Christmas special episode, Sonic Christmas Blast, and the 6th episode of the SatAM series titled Sonic Racer. The universe is pretty SatAM-ish for the most part, but at the same time, there are some weird differences. Namely that Robotnik looks like his Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog counterpart rather than his more grisly, terrifying counterpart from the ABC cartoon in question. The book proceeds as follows. Sonic, who is currently deeply into extreme sports, is being timed on a mountain biking route by Rotor the Walrus. "Edge City, here I come," he says, very 90s-ally. He approaches the infamously dangerous Dead Man's Curve, but surpasses its dangers in little less than half a paragraph because, kids don't really pay attention for that long. They're approached by a badly beaten Sally Acorn, whose injuries Sonic takes a good 5 seconds to actually notice because he keeps calling himself Sonic Xtreme. They are told that resident Southern Belle, Bunny Rabbit, is in trouble, and from there we get some conflicting information about the Western Sonic lore that I'm not sure if it's the result of Teitelbaum's mistake or Sega's. In this book, we're told the entire planet is ruled by Robotnik rather than simply Robotropolis, which means that all of it is a polluted and destroyed hellscape, which kinda makes you wonder how the freedom fighters even survived. Furthermore, we're told the only organic part of Bunny is her head and one arm, even though most of her torso is supposed to be organic too? Speaking of Bunny, apparently the reason she's in trouble is because she's been kidnapped. On the way of carrying a robot neutralizer ray that Rotor invented, Sally and Bunny were both ambushed by SWAT bots who stole the weapon, used it on Bunny, and then kidnapped her. Sally finishes telling the details of this kidnapping to Sonic before obligatorily fainting into his arms, because women do be fainting, I guess. They take Sally back to Knothole to rest and pick up on a TV signal of Robotnik mocking them, where he challenges Sonic to an extreme sports competition, because he's heard about how dope Sonic is at mountain biking or whatever. He says that if Sonic competes and wins, he'll release Bunny, but kill her if he doesn't, and to not even think about rescuing her, because she's hidden somewhere he'll never find her that's not his base. Sonic decides to go, with Antoine being chosen as his referee to ensure that no cheating or funny business is going on. On that note, Sonic is way less rude to Antoine in this book than he is in the cartoon, but Antoine seemingly cannot stand him anyway. While Sonic and Antoine participate in the Fry Cook games, I mean the extreme sports competition, Sally decides she'll team up with Rotor to look for Bunny because she doesn't trust Robotnik would actually let her go. When the competition starts, Snively uses a rigged coin with heads on both sides to ensure that Robotnik starts first, and they start with bungee jumping. Robotnik bounces 3 times before he is completely exhausted and comes up. Antoine is distracted by being told Sally is off to the side, and Robotnik just straight up cuts Sonic's line with a knife in an attempt to murder him. Sonic luckily notices the ploy and runs up the cliff using his speed, ties the cut cord into a knot, and bounces 12 times in a row just to flex on Robotnik for being a virgin loser. Sally and Rotor break into Robotnik's fortress, where he said Bunny wasn't, to look for Bunny, and it turns out that she isn't there. And they're caught in the weapons room by SWAT bots. Fortunately, in the nick of time, Rotor finds his confiscated robot neutralizing weapon there on a shelf and gets the drop on them. Nicole scans the prison, unable to find Bunny, but does find schematics for a space prison orbiting the planet which she might be in instead, which is kind of extra, but whatever. Sally basically just tells Rotor to make an entire spaceship on the fly, and he's like, man, okay, I guess, I'll just do that real quick. Back at the competition, we move on to rock climbing, where Robotnik hides a tube of oil in his pants somehow to make the rocks below him slippery and to sabotage Sonic. Sonic spins so fast that the oil just burns off of him, and he runs up the rocks, but Robotnik just barely clears the top before him, making them tied. Meanwhile, Rotor starts building a spaceship with a diving bell as the base and finishes it within 2 paragraphs. Sally and Rotor board the ship, fly up, and find the space prison within minutes, and dock into the entranceway. They find Bunny in a holding cell, but get into a shootout in the hall, and literally just leave her there like, oops, we forgot there might be security here, we'll be back. Back on land, Sonic and Robotnik play a sick game of basketball, with Robotnik using hidden spring shoes to do a moon jump slam dunk. He also builds an elaborate automatic lid that slides over the hoop to screw up Sonic's dunk, which is really, really extra just for the sake of winning basketball. Not content to let the cheating get him down, though, Sonic vows victory in the next match, soccer. Despite attempting to cheat with steel-toed shoes, Robotnik is outmatched because Sonic is too fast for him to kick the ball past, earning another win for Sonic. The tie-breaking final match is a surf competition with a goal of riding at least 10 waves. A lot of 90s slang follows. Shredding this wave, totally tubular, the works. Robotnik, unsurprisingly, just totally sucks at this, but claims that he's gonna kill Bunny anyway. Just in time, Sally and Rotor parachute in from their spaceship crash, and Sonic uses his rad paraboarding equipment to follow their pursuing guard robot back up to the prison. Sonic saves Bunny from the prison and runs out, escaping on a SWAT-bot spaceship that he kinda sucks at piloting. Sally and Rotor are surrounded by SWAT bots on the beach, but Rotor uses his neutralizing weapon to defeat them all, sending Robotnik and co packing as Sonic returns, content with saving the day and getting on his Xtreme mountain bike to go shred some new records, ending Sonic Xtreme. It's a rather simple and goofy story that feels as if it were written in an afternoon, but considering that it was likely marketed to babies who would buy anything with Sonic on it, I'd say it generally does its job fairly well. I mean, it worked on me. Would I say it was so good that I deserved to be accosted on its behalf, though? Probably not. I can't say Sonic doing extreme sports was worth $20, much less being punched in the face. But I suppose we all pay exorbitant prices for things sometimes. Like paying full price for Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, you might be asking right now, Marcy, this whole section about the book itself was kind of overshadowed by your elaborate backstory relating to how you remember this book. It seems as if this video was meant less to be a genuine review of said book, and more of an intricate construction meant solely as a vehicle to deliver a funny anecdote about you getting punched in the face as a child. And you'd be right. Hey all, thanks for watching my video. If you'd like to see more, please leave a like and a comment to endear me to the algorithm, and subscribe so you don't miss my new content as it comes out. Consider also supporting me on Patreon to help me continue making stuff like this, and follow me on Twitter if you're so inclined.